All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first Brampton Tech Talk of 2021. My name is Erin. I'm the Makerspace and Digital Literacy Librarian at Brampton Library, and I'd like to welcome you all here to our virtual Brampton Tech Talk. I had hoped that in 2021 we might be able to meet in person again, but unfortunately that's not the case. But we're glad you could join us here on Zoom. Before we introduce tonight's speakers, I would just like to make a land acknowledgement and acknowledge that we are gathering here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. And just a few announcements about some services and programs that we at Brampton Library are offering at this time. As you probably know, all Brampton Library branches do remain closed until further notice. However, we are now offering curbside pickup at all 8 Brampton Library locations. And while our physical spaces are closed, the library is still here for you. Our digital library, available at bramptonlibrary.ca, offers a full range of free electronic resources, which you can access with your Brampton Library card. And if you don't have a Brampton Library card, I encourage you to sign up for a digital barcode from our website. It just takes a couple of minutes to fill out a form, and one of our staff will contact you to confirm your information and provide you with your library barcode. And if you don't live in Brampton, don't worry. Any resident of Ontario is eligible for a free membership with us. And we recently launched our Brampton Library mobile app, which is available for iOS and Android devices. So I recommend that you check that out if you haven't already. And you can actually use that barcode that we'll send you to create a virtual card right in the app. And another event we have coming up at the end of next week is our virtual hackathon for youth called Brampton Library Brainy Hacks. This is a virtual hackathon, beginner friendly for youth ages 13 to 25. And we do still have some spots available. So if you have any young people at home who might be interested, please pass them on to this link. They can register at bramptonlibrary.eventbrite.ca. We've got some great mini challenges, some terrific mentors, and awesome prizes. And just a note on 2 of our regular programs, which would normally meet in person, but are continuing virtually. The Test-Upper community has 2 codeathon sessions happening currently. There's cloud computing and DevOps fundamentals on Saturdays from 10 to 11 a.m. and automated API testing with Karate on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. And you can find the links for those on how to join at testopper.eventbrite.ca. And our bi-weekly Coffee and Code, which normally meets at the Springdale branch, has been meeting virtually on Discord for the past few months. It's a great group of people, developers and programmers of all skill levels, who meet and gather to share ideas, help each other with problems and troubleshooting, and even show off their projects, which we love. And a week from tonight, we have our next in our Newcomer Success Stories series. And our featured guest will be Jesh Menon, who is the Senior Investment Advisor at the City of Brampton. And he's going to share his story and insights to help new citizens launch their careers in Canada.
So thank you everyone once again for joining us for the first edition of Tech Talks of 2021. Tonight we've got a really special company with us. You might hear more of in the coming year and years follow as they can go on and do incredible things. I would love for you all to meet with us tonight, Penfield.AI. I'll save the introduction on what their company is because I'm sure that they'll tell you all about it. But I would like to introduce you to the co-founder, Tahseen Shabab. And he's got a great portfolio behind him, a great resume, a very colorful one, which included working at companies like IBM, RBC, and North American governments as a cybersecurity consultant. He was also the lead developer of a product called AppScan Source on Cloud, which was a SAST tool. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm sure he'll get into it later today, which was used by a ton of Fortune 500 companies. He also graduated from the University of Waterloo in electrical engineering and holds 3 awards from the school and 2 awards from IBM. Today, he's a co-founder and CEO of Penfield.AI, where he works alongside Rachel McGonigle, who is the head of partnerships. Now, Rachel is a graduate of Queen's University, so the other side of Ontario, but she's got extensive experience partnering with enterprise businesses and high-growth technology companies in both the B2B and B2C space. Right now, she's focused on on new customers and channel relationships to develop long-term partnerships for Penfield.AI. And she joined Penfield.AI at the top of 2020. So about a year ago now, she's been along for the whole ride. So with that being said, Tahseen and Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I think Tahseen's going to share his screen right now, and then we'll get started. Yeah, so thanks for joining, everyone. We're really excited about this talk, and thanks for having us, the City of Brampton. We'd like to take some time this evening to talk about human-machine intelligence and cybersecurity. It's a really new topic, and I would love to get everyone's thoughts on it. So like it was mentioned, I'm Rachel. I'm the head of partnerships at Penfield.AI.
And I'm Tahseen. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Penfield.AI.
So to go back a few decades, if we look back to even the 80s and we've thought about artificial intelligence, you might have thought about robots roaming the streets or flying cars or a big variety of things that maybe didn't quite play out to where we are today. If you then look at where we are today with artificial intelligence and AI, we have come a long way. AI is really great for automating static things. So we have the ability to make our lives a lot easier by incorporating artificial intelligence into our everyday life. Some examples of that can be automated grocery store checkouts, ATMs, and more. But the problem is AI is really good at automating static processes. So it can define something and automate that time and time again without fail. Yeah, but in cyber, so yeah, sorry, I got ahead of myself. AI is great at automating static processes. So if we look at self-driving cars, for example, autonomous vehicles, they've been programmed to identify what other cars are. They can define what a person is, a bicycle, a traffic light, and they can take actions to move the car on behalf of that. But these definitions don't change over time. You'll never see a bicycle cross the street and halfway through the street, the bicycle actually shapeshifts and now it's a boat. That just doesn't take place in the real world. And that would be an example of a dynamic process, so something that evolves over time. Dynamic processes are what we find in cybersecurity. So these are ever-changing methods where you have the attackers, which are the hackers, that will change and evolve their attack methods over time to find a way into an organization. So that could be a matter of testing out new networks, different methods, different tools to get into an organization and really make an impact. In cybersecurity, you do have people that are responding to these hackers and trying to defend, and the hackers can change their methods against these people that are trying to defend us to find a way around them. A further example to that would be on the next slide. If an AI tool is trained to watch for caterpillars and make sure caterpillars don't get in, they'll always stop the caterpillar. But if the caterpillar evolves into a butterfly, then the AI can't actually evolve its methods to stop the butterfly. It becomes a bit more real if you think about making robot Batmans and having robot Batmans that are always out to chase after the Joker and stop the Joker from committing any crimes. And if you do program this way, they'll always stop the Joker and he'll never get away with it. But if the Joker evolves his methods and starts to disguise himself or is able to change forms and shapeshift and come across as just the average everyday person walking the streets, and he doesn't look like the Joker anymore, then the robot Batman wouldn't be able to catch him and he'd be able to get away with all the crimes he wants. So that's why we would need human Batman to understand the context of the Joker and understand his methods and his plans and be able to keep up with him. This becomes super close to home when we start to look at how hackers can actually have an impact on us, the average everyday person. Just a couple weeks ago, we saw in Florida that a hacker tried to contaminate the city's actual water supply by adjusting the different chemical levels in it to levels that could really, really sicken people. And it's scary. Hackers aren't just looking for financial gain anymore. It's actually becoming quite harmful to people's livelihoods. So in the context of enterprise security, which is where human machine intelligence is going to come into play, we'd like to give a quick overview and then we can dive in deeper. Enterprise security is where large businesses go to extreme methods to secure information and systems against unauthorized access that may infringe on the confidentiality of those data and systems. I'll hand it over to Tahseen now so we can dive in a bit deeper.
Thank you, Rachel, for the overview. So to give a more high-level overview of enterprise security, so we have a diagram which outlines various tools which are used to defend against cyber criminals in the enterprise world. On the left-hand side, we have sensors. So these could be your laptops, it could be servers, it could be firewalls, and more. These are devices which share data to a core cybersecurity platform called a SIEM tool. And on a very high level, this is a tool used by analysts to investigate certain incidents, which could be malicious. Now, these SIEM platforms or cybersecurity platforms integrate with a number of different tools, one of which is your detection tool, which is outlined on the top. A detection tool is responsible for looking at log data or different sources of data to identify potential attacks. And these detection tools generate alerts, which are then passed on to a human analyst for review. In addition, a SIEM tool or these cybersecurity platforms also integrate with several tools downstream, one of which is the orchestration tool. So this is a tool which is used to automate static processes. In addition, these tools have APIs or connectors to several different tools, some of which include the defensive tools, which are responsible for blocking threats, one of which is your firewall, you have network access control, and more. So on a high level, this is a picture of enterprise security. Moreover, usually our last line of defense are your cybersecurity analysts who are responsible for looking at these different alerts and defending against attacks. And life is becoming quite challenging for analysts due to several reasons. First would be threat vectors. So as we have seen since the pandemic, there's been an increased number of attacks. This is due to the rise in the threat vectors associated with attacks. So one common driver for this would be wide-scale adoption of cloud technology, which has opened up a number of different threats. And now these analysts have to keep up to the latest trends in technology to really understand true attacks and to defend against them. Next would be sensors. So now the interesting thing is as cybersecurity gets more sophisticated, we have different tools to block different kinds of attacks. And analysts are responsible for looking at results from different tools, and they're responsible to stitch these different results together to get a high level or a holistic view of the threat. And then analysts are required to make judgments, which makes things more complicated for analysts. And finally, there's a need for contextual knowledge. So for instance, the same attack can be blocked, or the same attack could be remediated across different means just due to the context of the attack. So for instance, within a bank, the same certain attack on your, say, online dealt with completely differently than another server. And this is contextual knowledge or tribal knowledge, as they're mentioned in cybersecurity, which analysts have to retain and leverage when they are deflecting against attacks. So this is why analysts are required even more today, and they're having a hard time. So today, the way what happens is we have a large number of alerts which get fed from your different tools, such as your SIEM tools, and these are passed on initially to your tier 1 analysts. Tier 1 analysts are analysts who have they have an understanding to resolve more simpler attacks, I would say, and then these analysts would remediate certain tasks, and they might escalate events to or alerts to tier 2 analysts or multiple tier 2 analysts, and then a tier 3 and multiple tier 3 analysts, till they find the best analyst with the right skill sets and contextual awareness to solve problems. Meanwhile, hackers are moving fast. So what happens is it takes a long time to resolve incidents. Many times analysts do make mistakes as alerts or mistakes slip through the cracks due to manual audit processes. And these are things we'll dive deeper. So this is a big challenge in the industry. So, and to make things worse, these analysts are up against a powerful enemy. So today, we're not faced with the lone cyber criminal who's working in the basement of their parents' apartment. So these days, we're looking at sophisticated criminals who are largely backed by different governments. And these sophisticated hackers can get a foothold into an organization really fast. In fact, the fastest time recorded today is 19 minutes. So this is a term in cybersecurity called the breakout speed. Moreover, the frequency of attacks are on the rise. So within Canadian banks, there could be 6 to 9 billion cyber events on a given day. So it means the pressure is on the analysts. Finally, these reasons have led to a number of breaches. I'm sure we've all heard of the popular Equifax breach, which happened in 2017, which led to the loss of information of of sensitive information of over 150 million folks. The primary reason for this was failure to due diligence, so in which case Equifax failed to patch a certain third-party software which had vulnerabilities, and Equifax ended up paying a handsome amount on fines. Also, more recently, we have noticed the FireEye SolarWinds attack, where sophisticated hackers were able to leverage a vulnerability in the software update mechanism of the tool, which enabled them to slip in a virus or a malware, which enabled them to get a foothold into various servers. So this also goes to show that some of the best organizations are getting breached today. And furthermore, analysts who are humans make mistakes due to a number of reasons, first of which is skill gaps. So cybersecurity is a vast field with domains such as application security, network security, malware detection, reverse engineering, and more. It is very unlikely to find one analyst who would have all the right skill sets to solve problems. So many times analysts do make mistakes. Next would be unfamiliar networks. This is something we've touched upon where, say, even within a bank, the same attack on your online banking server can be dealt with completely differently than that of another server due to a number of reasons, which include they could be under different technology stacks, they could be under different business units, they could have different criticalities, different policies, and more. And without this familiarity, analysts are bound to make mistakes. And finally, stress and fatigue. So analysts are bombarded by a large amount of incidents, and they only have a short amount of time to deflect attacks. So this is a very stressful job, and many times analysts do make mistakes due to burnout and stress. In addition, there's an acute shortage of skilled analysts in the industry. There's an estimated 3.5 million, there will be an estimated 3.5 million unfulfilled jobs by the end of the year. In addition, some of the best organizations take a long time to identify an appropriate analyst to fill the role. So roughly it takes 6 to 8 weeks today for the best organizations to find the right fit. In addition, if there's an empty seat within your cybersecurity operations center, it would incur a huge risk within the organization. And finally, there's a huge churn rate amongst analysts today who are prized within their organizations. The primary reason analysts leave their jobs are as follows. First would be burnout. So analysts just get stressed doing repetitive tasks and they leave. And another one would be poor training. Many times analysts don't see the opportunity for career growth, in which case they want to move on to another role. So these are some of the challenges in the industry. So the question remains, so how are hackers bypassing AI detection? So for instance, if AI were to auto-detect each and every threat, then we wouldn't need analysts. So there are several reasons why this is the case. So today, it's proven that it's quite easy to fool machine learning detection solutions, even solutions who are using the most sophisticated machine learning models. So on the left top corner, we have an image of a panda, which an image recognition or a machine learning model is able to accurately identify. However, we notice that if we add only a small degree of noise to this image, on top of this image, even if the human eye can look and understand that this is still a panda, but you can fool a machine learning model in believing that it's not something else, say a gibbon, with high degree of confidence. So these are some of the strategies which hackers can use to fool machine learning systems today, which in essence would enable them to bypass detection. So in a nutshell, machine learning models are quite easy to fool. An interesting example and a recent example would be that of Silence, which is a top AI antivirus, which was recently acquired by BlackBerry for $1.4 billion. So this was earlier in 2019. And what happened was, after a few months of the acquisition, it took only a couple of researchers a few months to identify a global, to bypass the AI antivirus. So they figured out a way to fool each and every instance of Silence into believing that a malware is actually not a malware. And this made quite a bit of headlines. In addition, I'm taking a slide from a presentation we gave at Mars Discovery District in 2019. And this slide demonstrates how hackers are getting very sophisticated these days. So what we notice here is, many times once hackers get a foothold into the organization, they try to mimic true behavior, or behavior which is legitimate within the organization, by looking at different patterns, and then they try to bypass detections by acting as if they're real users. And this is something which was noticed even in the recent SolarWinds attack, where once a malware was placed within the compromised tool, the hackers devised the tool, their movements in a way such that they bypass the detection. So these are getting quite common these days. So there are several reasons why it's very hard to apply machine learning in cybersecurity, and I'll state a few prior reasons. So first would be the problem of imbalanced data sets. So in for instance, the ratio of real attacks to noise or legitimate behavior within an organization could be highly imbalanced. So there's not enough data to really train the sophisticated machine learning models, like your deep learning models, which require a lot of data to make sense of different patterns. So this is one challenge in the industry. Another one would be dynamic environments, which Rachel has touched upon. So in cybersecurity, everything keeps on changing. Your network traffic can keep on changing as we onboard new tools. User behavior changes as we grow our business. In addition, hackers are always updating their maneuvers, looking for the path of least resistance. So these are reasons why applying machine learning is quite challenging in a dynamic environment such as cybersecurity. And finally, another problem is attack patterns don't necessarily carry forward across every organization. An example would be, say, when we notice today's hackers, they're extremely sophisticated. So if we look at the SolarWinds attack, it was tuned directly for this specific tool, in which case many times those strategies might not get forwarded across all different tools. So that could be a case, in which case many times it's quite hard, as hackers are getting very sophisticated and they're devising custom strategies to bypass detection. So the question remains, do analysts stand a chance against these organized and sophisticated criminals? So in order to answer that question, we started diving deeper into human-machine intelligence. And I'll give a high-level overview of what human-machine intelligence entails. So now, high-level, human-machine intelligence is a layer of intelligence which enables humans and machines to better collaborate with one another so that they can play off their strengths. So one element of human machine intelligence, according to Penfield and our research, is the ability to really understand your human analysts and to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And based on that, we can distribute workload and optimize certain processes so that your humans can do the work they're best at doing, while we let the machines do what they're best at doing. And in addition, adding a layer of communication and to enhance the collaboration between the two entities. So that's human machine intelligence in a nutshell. So moving on, I'll let Rachel take things on from here.
Thanks, Tahseen. So at Penfield, we're the first company to bring human machine intelligence to cybersecurity. And we're the first real-time skill set quantification tool and decision-making platform. Moving forward, this is an overview of our team today. So Penfield was founded in 2017 by Tahseen, as well as Dr. Hassan Khan. He's a professor from the University of Guelph and has a PhD from the University of Waterloo. Tahseen was working in the industry as a cybersecurity consultant for many years, and around 2017 was the time when there was this huge notion that AI would automate everything, and that eventually security analysts would be replaced by AI, and you would never really need that human intervention because AI was going to solve all the problems. But Tahseen and others found that that just wasn't necessarily the case because of the complexity of cybersecurity specifically and the dynamic environment. Human intervention would always be required. So if we go to the next slide, Tahseen and Hassan started research at the University of Waterloo for about 2 years and came out with some pretty cool results, as well as a product that through accelerators such as Velocity, Creative Destruction Lab, Mars, Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst, and 500 startups, they've been able to grow a team and bring it to market. So myself and some of the others joined September of 2020, and it's been a great ride since then. So most recently, this fall, we were part of the Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst, which has a large presence here in Brampton, but we joined from Toronto, and we were able to be surrounded by some really great mentors in cybersecurity. We were able to partner with some huge organizations such as Microsoft, Herjavec Group, RBC, and more to learn from them on how enterprise security could benefit from new AI or HMI tools. And now this year we're in 500 startups, and we're able to get similar exposure from more so the US market and understand the core differences there. Moving forward, I'll walk you through a bit more of our background. We've named our company after Dr. Wilder Penfield, who's actually a famous Canadian neurosurgeon out of McGill in the Montreal area. Dr. Penfield's actually credited with mapping out the functions of the human brain, understanding what sections align with what human functionalities, and by really mapping it out across the whole body, he was able to unlock new medicine, new treatments, new surgical methods, and really tap into more human potential. So we found some really unique synergies there. To highlight in our product, Penfield's patent pending AI engine is the first of its kind. We actually model the skill sets of cybersecurity analysts in real time. And by doing that, we're able to perform a number of actions to really improve the overall efficacy of the cybersecurity division in an enterprise business. The first is intelligent task distribution, where we're able to pass each incoming incident to the analyst that is best equipped to resolve it. There's also intelligent auditing, where we're able to audit 100% of resolved incidents to ensure no mistakes slip through the cracks, whereas currently only a subset of incidents typically get audited, as well as continuous training and coaching, where we're continuously learning from the best analysts on the team. And we're able to share these insights with other analysts to bring up the whole team to a premium level. We believe that the impact of human machine intelligence in cybersecurity will improve human productivity, augment for higher accuracy, allowing people to truly stop the hackers. So now the question is, how do we get more people in the field? As Tahseen mentioned, there's a huge talent shortage in cybersecurity. All the businesses that we speak with are constantly searching for more people to bring in because they just need all the help they can get. It's such a growing problem. We have a number of resources on hand that we can share, but I can speak for myself that you don't need to have an extensive cybersecurity background to join the industry. Although I'm not a cybersecurity analyst per se, I found the cybersecurity community in Canada so welcoming to join, and everyone's been so inviting, and it's been there's so many support systems in place for people that want to learn and get involved. Some of the things that you can do to get up to speed and start to introduce yourself to the industry would be some skill building courses that are available online. There's tons of books and podcasts. If you're interested, we can definitely share some of those. There's lots of meetups, clubs, organizations, events like tonight's event, as well as the Ryerson Catalyst Cyber Range, which is something that we got to know through the Cyber Catalyst we were part of in the fall, where they've built a cyber range that is meant specifically for training people that are looking to get into the cybersecurity field. So if you are interested, we would definitely say that that could be a really great spot to start. I see a comment from Aaron that the library would have lots of books and resources. That's a great point. Finally, aside from enterprise cybersecurity and an actual career on this, protect yourself. One of the easiest things we can do is password management. Change your passwords frequently. Use different passwords for different accounts. Make them complex. Leverage the multi-factor authentication that's available, and then don't open messages from unknown senders. So these are all pretty simple things that we can all apply, and it will allow us to protect ourselves. But yeah, that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining today, and we're looking forward to hearing any questions. I see Jason saying, keep your software up to date. Yes, thank you.
Super important. Thank you both for sharing all that. And I learned a lot from just listening to you. And it's so interesting how deep that this field seems, even though it's been around for a long time. It feels like it's ever evolving, especially with the HCI part of things, which for me was a new concept. But I'm curious, and to kick things off with the Q&A, you spoke a lot about how HCI helps on the enterprise level, and how a lot of Penfield's work is geared towards B2B clients. But do you see a future where HCI could get involved on a consumer level to protect me or our friends and family from just shopping online or credit card fraud? Like, what does that future look like? Sorry, Tahseen, I'm not sure if you're talking, but...
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I can address that question. So a few reflections. So this is, of course, down in the future. So there could be some opportunities to help the consumer market using certain human-computer interaction techniques. Some techniques from human-computer interaction could be leveraged to better explain potential threats to folks who might not have the cybersecurity background. So there could be some intelligence in place. Say, for instance, if even in your antivirus, if there's a threat, but what does it mean to me, right? Like, what are certain actions I can take? Same applies with potential malicious email or URL links passed through your email address. So those are some areas where human-computer interaction strategies could be leveraged so that there's a better communication with certain alerts or certain threats with the humans.
It's really interesting. And I think you mentioned antivirus software in there as well. And it's funny to think about now. It's been years since I've used a Windows computer or like bought one myself. And, ever since I got a MacBook, I've been strictly Apple for maybe almost, coming on 10 years almost now. And I haven't once downloaded any sort of antivirus software on my MacBooks. And I haven't worried about it either. And it's interesting to think about how that evolution has happened just from a mindset perspective. What other kind of changes have you seen in the cliches of cybersecurity over the last 10 years?
So that's an interesting point. So we have a bias more towards the enterprise world, in which case we have to abide by certain controls. So for instance, we have certain detection tools at play. So even in my machine, I monitored the network traffic going in and out. So it's one of those things which happens when you're in the industry for quite some time. But in our case, So we've noticed a number of trends, but the trends we have noticed are more from the enterprise world. So, and another interesting thing is usually the cybersecurity folks hang out with one another. So in which case, we're all talking about some of the more advanced detection tools which we are used to using.
I think one trend that has kind of come to light is that cybersecurity used to kind of fly under the radar, and people didn't really know much about it or didn't really think a whole lot about it. And now it's really coming to light. Even if you don't know something about cybersecurity, you've heard about it. It's making its way into the headlines, and people are starting to realize that it's actually a really big issue, and it's being taken a lot more seriously. And I think that'll only continue.
Right. I kind of liken it to robberies or accidents, and you always think it'll never happen to me, I'm good, but then when it does, then you start taking it more seriously. Do you think cybersecurity is one of those things that people are starting to be more proactive about?
Yes, absolutely. So when we look at different organizations who typically get breached have quite a increase their budget to ensure it never happens again. So this is something. So the reactive nature of the industry still is quite prominent.
Interesting.
It's also, we've seen that there's a kind of a camaraderie about it as well, where businesses know that there's no one business that's immune to it. Even with the FireEye SolarWinds hack, as Tahseen mentioned, that's one of the leading security companies in the world. So if it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And we saw a big surge after that happened, where a lot of businesses came out and even commended SolarWinds and FireEye for the way that they handled such a public hack and breach, and appreciated their approach to it, rather than slamming them and saying don't work with them because they got hacked. It was more of a, this could happen to any of us, so let us know how we can help.
Wow, I had no idea. That's super interesting. That's really comforting to hear that businesses are looking out for each other on that end. On the businesses getting hacked end of things, whenever anything like that happens, the headlines might say something along the lines of X company lost so and so $100 million in this hack. What do those numbers really mean? What does it mean when a headline says that $100 million was lost in this hack? Is that real money being lost, or is that value? What does that mean?
There could be several breakdowns of that cost. So some could be, for instance, fines, which companies have to pay. Others could be, for instance, whenever there's a breach, companies typically might recruit experts or consultants to investigate the threat, and there could be legal charges, or you might have to bring on board lawyers. So the costs kind of ramp up on that note.
It's interesting. I have one last question, but before I ask that, I just want to check in with the audience, and Aaron and Zaim, if you wanted to jump in with any questions of your own. Cool. All right, I can ask my last question then. So you mentioned it as well that cybersecurity is something that seems like this big Goliath, this big scary thing that you got to kind of walk towards very slowly. For those of us that are in the audience that might be looking at a future where cybersecurity could be in our career, whether that's building a company or working at a firm like RBC, what actionable steps would you give them to maybe build a career in the next 12 months in this space?
Maybe Rachel would be a great person to answer that question.
Yeah, well, I would first say, if you're looking to become a cybersecurity analyst, there's a ton of programs that can teach the fundamentals. You don't have to have a really extensive technical background and 10 years in cybersecurity to be considered for the job. There's training programs where you can come in with no experience, and they'll teach you those basic fundamentals. And businesses we've spoken with are looking for people that are just really passionate about it and passionate to learn, and they'll teach you. They'll show you the ropes, and they have good people on their teams that can mentor you along the way. They need people that want to be there and are really passionate about the work that they're doing. So I would say just get started. Start as soon as you can and start learning about it. And it doesn't have to be as a cybersecurity analyst either. I'm pretty new to cybersecurity myself. I'm joining in more of a sales and partnerships role. So if the actual defense role isn't for you, there's always a huge variety of other opportunities available as well.
Being someone who's new to the field, Rachel, to cybersecurity, what was one misconception you had about the field that was completely shattered once you actually got in, or something that you learned that really surprised you about cybersecurity?
I was aware that it was going to be a really large learning curve, and I think I assumed that people would not find me as credible if I didn't have that 10 years of cybersecurity expertise behind me. But because I'm surrounded by so many incredible people in the field, I have such strong mentors, I was able to just ask a lot of questions off the bat, get brought up to speed. And I think just having that curiosity and wanting to learn is the biggest part of it, because I mean, as our whole presentation was saying, cybersecurity is always changing. There's something new every day. So I'd be shocked if there was one person that knew every single thing about every topic in cybersecurity, because there's new problems coming up every day. So within a year, you could be that expert potentially if you stumble across that new topic that no one's heard of before. So I think that it's just such a welcoming community. And we like to say we're in cybersecurity, we're fighting the good fight. In a lot of industries, tech companies are fighting against each other to be the best one. But in cybersecurity, all the companies are fighting together to take down the enemy, stop the hackers from getting in. So we're all on the same team.
I think it was Einstein who had a quote something along the lines of, I can't tell you what weapons World War III will be fought with, but I can tell you that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. But I think before we get to that, it's going to be a lot of cybersecurity stuff.
We do have a couple of questions that have come through in the chat. Mark asks, so what do you do at work when you are a starter in the field?
I just invited myself to every single meeting and call and conversation possible. And just even as a fly on the wall, if you listen in on enough conversations, you start to really internalize it. And then asking every question under the sun as well, even down to the smallest detail. And then reading and learning, watching videos online in off time, following thought leaders in the space, staying up to date on trends, just really immersing yourself in it. It's kind of nice with it being locked down all year, and not like nice being locked down, but working from home and having nothing else to do. It creates really focused quality time to learn everything I need to learn.
Great. And there's a follow-up to that. He said, what would your responsibilities be?
Would this be, is this referring to when I was starting, or would this be for someone joining as a cybersecurity analyst?
Someone joining as a cybersecurity analyst.
Tahseen, do you want to brush on that one?
Sounds good. So that's an interesting point. So, I mean, there are various different roles within cybersecurity. So being a cybersecurity analyst is just one role. I mean, you could focus on application security, you can focus on DevSecOps security, you can focus on network security. You can be in the defensive side of things, you can be on the offensive side of things, and more. So with analysts, what would require, perhaps initially you would need some understanding of specific tools which are used within the cybersecurity operations center. So initially, once analysts are onboarded, depending on the organization, there could be a training phase where analysts are trained on the different threat vectors, they're trained on the different tools, and then you start potentially monitoring logs and alerts, and perhaps even potentially shadowing a more experienced analyst for some time to have the grip. But that varies, yeah.
And Jason had a comment wondering about the continuous coaching and how it goes about helping the security specialist.
So that's a great point. So I can answer that on a high level. So in our case, so what Penfield does is we model the skill sets of cybersecurity analysts, and we've applied for a US professional patent last year. So in our case, we have a very unique approach to model the skill sets in real time. This enables us to understand the unique characteristics of your best analysts, and we can share that to other analysts in the form of personalized recommendation and training. However, if you're interested further, please feel free to book a demo on our website, and Rachel and I would be happy to dive into the details.
All right.
I think Robert is asking the question that we're all thinking. Is there a chance to get in pre-IPO at Penfield?
So we're currently in fundraising more later stages, so now would be a good time. If you want to see some immediate returns.
Amazing. I'm sure if anyone's interested in that, I'm sure they'll take you up on the demo offer and finagle their way into a investment conversation. But Rachel and Tahseen, this has been very informative, very interesting to hear about this line of work, which in an area that seems like it's still very early in cybersecurity with HCI. So I feel like we're all seeing the precipice of something very exciting that's going to be taking over cybersecurity and the whole tech world in the next coming years. So I want to thank you both for your time and joining us tonight, and wish you well on closing this funding round that you're very close to doing so. So congrats on everything as well, and thank you again for joining us. And for everyone else that's here, thank you again for joining us for the first edition of Tech Talks of 2021. It's been a blast so far, and please join me in the chat and message them individually as well on their contact information on the meetup page. Thanking Tahseen and Rachel for joining us too. It's been a pleasure. But if you're here today and you want to learn more about what the City of Brampton does with the Brampton Library, you can check us out at the BramptonInnovationDistrict.com. We're building a whole avenue for you to build your companies, to learn about new tech, to get the support you need, all in downtown Brampton. So check us out at BramptonInnovationDistrict.com. And we also have some of our own events happening in the coming weeks. So next weekend we have, in partnership with Black Tech Matters, we have Hacking Generational Wealth happening from February 26th to 28th. So this is open to anyone who is concerned about any open banking, housing security, or credit and debit management issues in Brampton's Black community. Great chance to meet a community that usually goes underserved and tackle challenges that need your support and need your expertise greatly. So check that out at the link in the chat, hackworks.com, and that's Hacking Generational Wealth. And in the coming months too, we also have one of Brampton's beloved hackathons happening, Wolf Hacks. This will be our second, I think it's maybe the third or fourth year that's happening, annual tradition in Brampton. So 51 days away, wolfhacks.ca. This is open to a high school audience. So if you're still within the grade 9 to 12 arena and you want to build something cool, definitely check out Wolf Hacks happening in April. But if you're a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, always open to meeting any new potential mentors or judges. So do contact us if you're interested in learning more about how you can get involved on a mentor and judge perspective. And to wrap everything up, if you want to stay abreast of everything that's happening in the Innovation District, things that we're doing in the city, things that Aaron has going on, or even events or potential investors who are looking to connect with startups like yours, I invite you all to join us on the Brampton City Slack channel. I think we're the only city who has a Slack channel for all of our entrepreneurial and tech community, and we're 1,000 plus strong now. So great chance for you to meet the Brampton community and connect with other people like Tahseen, Rachel, who are building cool things or want to help support cool things being built in the city. So definitely go join us on the city Slack if you're not already there. And with that being said, I believe that's all, folks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again for everyone joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Good night.
Night. Thank you.